What's up, everybody? This is Josh, aka Ildris, with GGTV, coming to you today with another Starcraft 2 replay. Yesterday, we went over a Protoss vs. Zerg matchup in which the Zerg player was trying to break down a Forge Fast Expand wall with just Zerglings without an expansion. So we saw how that didn't work out for the player. Today we're going to take a look at another Zerg vs Protoss matchup in which the player actually does manage to break down my Forge Fast Expand wall. So let's go ahead and load up that replay. And right here. Okay. Let's get it started. Get the names up there this time. There we go, that's always pretty. And production tab. Okay, and you'll also notice over in the corner we got a nice little overlay going on for the timer, so that's something that I was working on a little bit earlier today. Clearly I didn't spend too much time on it, it's not the best, but I think it's kind of nifty. Okay, and into the game we've got me going Forge Fast Expand, obviously. You'll notice that this pylon's a little bit too far forward. There's not enough space right here for my buildings. You'll actually see how that comes into play a little bit later. Let's check on Charlie, the Blue Zerg. He's looking pretty standard so far, and I'm actually going to slow this down at this point. I was trying earlier to have it at that 2x speed just to kind of get the action going, get it a little bit quicker, but there was just a little too much going on all at once for me to cover. So we're gonna just slow it down and take it a little bit easier. So you see me come in with my scout. I didn't really notice anything at all. I saw he had plenty of drones going, no gas, no pool at that moment. So it's looking like an expand first, which is why I brought my probe up here. However, I noticed there was no hatchery. So I was a little confused, so I go in back for a second scout to see what's going on, and I do notice the pool this time. And I know right before I leave, I get to see that extractor going down. So I pull back out and just kind of come up here. I'm assuming he's about to go hatchery, not realizing that he expanded down here instead of at his natural. So I dropped that pylon just to kind of delay it, unbeknownst to me, of course, that he's already got one going, which is a little ridiculous. Back up here at my base, I went Forge first, of course, then I actually threw down the gateway, and then the cannon behind that, just because I wasn't entirely sure what was going on. I was a little worried about the early pressure, so that cannon went down fairly quick, and definitely went down before the Nexus. Now I'm getting my cyber core at this point. There's not really anything going on up in my main, just now getting my gas up. Charlie actually sent his Overlord Scout up to the top left. I suppose he didn't realize that this was a cross-only map. He's getting his second gas going. He's finally got this second hatchery up and starting to drone up for that. And I do actually get my probe in here. So at this point I should realize that this is where the hatchery is, and you'll actually notice a little bit later on in the game that it comes into play that I do not. For whatever reason, I'm not paying attention to my minimap, and I don't realize that his hatchery is there. But he pulls gets two Zerglings out, so I pull my probe away, and I'm running, trying to get back up here. And anytime you're running your workers away, always click on a mineral patch, either in your base or wherever you need to go. Click on the mineral patch. It'll allow the probe or the worker to move through other units. Of course, he doesn't quite make it. Poor little Billy. Doesn't quite make it, but Bob the Zealot actually takes care of the two Zerglings that tried to get in. So at this point, I'm just getting my second Nexus up, working on my economy. I always want to, try and keep that going against the Zerg player, since they typically do have, the economy advantage. So I'm just pumping out probes as quickly as I can, and I am getting my 4 gates down now as I'm working on Warp Gate. So I'm transferring my probes, getting this one going, just trying to get that economy up, honestly, while the Zerg player is getting several Zerglings out. You notice that he went double gas. He did throw down that Roach Warren earlier than I thought he did as well. Researching speed for his lings. Just getting all those lings up towards my base right now. I'm working on +1 weapons, getting that observer out, which is something I didn't do in that last game we saw. I did not get that observer out soon enough. However, I am determined here to get some scouting information. I'm actually very bad at that at this stage in my game. I'm not good at scouting at all, which is a huge problem. You'll notice that the scout actually goes down to where this pylon is and just kind of sits there. Instead of getting any information, he just sits in a spot where I already have vision. And you'll also see that he flies right over these Zerglings as they're morphing into Banelings. And because I'm not paying attention to my mini-map, I don't see it. I have no idea that these Banelings are actually right outside my gates, just waiting to come in and pounce. So, he's running his Banelings in. I have no idea, completely unprepared for this. However, he takes out that Zealot right there, but continues to run the Banelings in against my structures, which was a big mistake. He should have run the rest of those Banelings straight to my mineral line, and then the rest of these Zerglings coming over here as well. He does not. He goes instead for my structures and then my pylon, and then he goes to attack this Immortal, which I could have microed, I believe. Just pulled it back and got a couple of shots off before it got taken down. So he only has a few Zerglings left, goes after my mineral line finally. Probes are actually able to take these Zerglings out, but instead of taking one of these probes just to go over and harass this Zergling and get it away from this gateway, I don't. I panic a little bit, I'm not paying attention, and then that gateway does happen to go down. So now I know that what he's doing. I know he went Banelings. Just trying to get as many Zealots out as I can, get these structures back up as quickly as possible, and just make sure I'm prepared for another rush in. And of course, he did supply block me, so I'm having to get my pylons back up. But you'll notice that I moved out. I'm not actually planning to counterattack at this stage. All I want to do is make sure that he's unable to run his Zerglings up here and just morph them right into Banelings right outside my gates again, because that would have been disastrous. So when you're against a Zerg player that does that, that's going Baneling against your Forge Fast Expand, make sure once you scout that out, just keep some units constantly out right in front of your wall, right in front of your natural, so that you know if he's trying to morph more Banelings, and that'll actually prevent him. So he comes in with just a ton of Zerglings. My +1 weapons is almost finished. My Zealots are going to town. I'm able to get another Warp Cycle of Zealots in, and 2 Immortals to go to action. So I'm able to hold that off fairly well. I do lose a number of Zealots in that. Let's take a look at the Army tab. My army's quite a bit bigger at this point. And he has actually lost more units in this, mainly because of the Banelings, I believe. But I am ahead in terms of army count at this point. So I'm needing to get some pylons down. I've got plenty of gateways going. I'm pumping out Immortals and Zealots, just Immortals and Zealots. Finally got +1 finished. My economy's not doing so bad. Still getting probes going. Just continuing to make Immortals, and I could warp in. Well, my money's a little bit low. I don't have enough for another warp cycle, but what I need to be doing at this point is scouting and find out what's going on. But as you see, like I was saying, I have that observer just sitting here doing nothing useful. I do realize, however, that of course he's taking this pylon out so he can expand here at any moment. However, instead of doing that, he expands out here, which is a little weird. Throughout this entire match, he expands in just kind of odd locations, honestly. So I am getting my army composition together. He did take out that pylon, so it supply blocked me once again, having to get some more pylons going. I am working on some armor. I do not have very good gas production, but I do have an absolute overflow of gas. So that's not so bad. And it's only now that I remember that he's taken out my cyber core. And I remember when I was trying to warp in that last round, just wondering why I was unable to warp in stalkers. And of course I realized that I never rebuilt that cyber core. So this is another big mistake that Charlie made in not tech switching into mutas or infestors. He went into roaches. I suppose because he already had that roach warren up. It was a big mistake though, honestly, because he knew that I had immortals pumping out. He saw that earlier, so he went to roaches anyway, which is just a mistake, because immortals, you know, of course, are the hard counter to roaches. So I have my zealot immortal army massing up. I get a little sentry in there finally, getting my economy going. I want to get those upgrades, really, is why I'm throwing down this Twilight Council. I'm looking to continue my upgrades. My money's looking pretty low in minerals. Of course, my gas is just skyrocketed. That's why I'm not really doing a lot of mining from these two geysers in my natural. Just continuing immortal production. Getting some stalkers out there. I don't have a proxy pylon out on the field anymore, which I probably could have done if I'd had proper scouting information, which, you know, in this game, that's just, you know, of the utmost importance, is to know what your opponent is doing, where he's doing it, what kind of army composition he has, what kind of tech he's going into. All that's just so important, and it's something you always want to keep an eye on. But I'm feeling fairly confident after taking out so much of his roaches and his zerglings earlier in the game. I'm feeling like I have an advantage at this point, and you see that I am getting a proxy pylon down finally. I'm ready to push in and take out some expansions. I know that he doesn't have an expander here, so I'm not sure exactly. Let me back that up real quick. I want to see that again. He has Banelings set up right here defensively, and you'll notice that instead of using my heavy units to move in first, I'm not paying attention to it, so I do lose those 3 stalkers almost immediately. It wasn't a bad trade. There were I think like 8 Banelings just sitting there, so 8 Banelings for 3 stalkers. I'm okay with that. But I did lose a lot of those. You know, I lost 3 stalkers, and that's actually going to come into play in a little bit. So I come in, take out what I see of his army, and I start working on those tech structures. I take out the Roach Warren and the Hydra Den just to make sure, and that's when I notice he has a Spire. So I'm thinking, oh crap, the Spire needs to go down now, because I only have 3 Stalkers out here. However, because I got this proxy pylon, I'm able to warp in around the Stalkers while I'm taking out these tech structures in his lair, or hive. I'm not sure which one that was actually. So I do finally get my stalkers in to start working on these Mutalisks, while I take out just the rest of his base with my ground units, with my zealots and my immortals. So I get rid of most of those mutas, but of course it's not all of them. Gonna have to warp in another round of stalkers just to take care of this. But I do know that I took out that Spire, so I know he's not gonna be able to get any mutas up immediately after this. So I'm still feeling fairly confident that I can just move on to his next base. Which I do know is sitting right there. I just want to get in another round of stalkers just in case he has some more Mutalisks hiding over here. I believe he had 1. Looks like he moved it. Now this is a good reason why you don't, as a Zerg player, you don't want to expand in these sort of odd locations, is just that you can't get your creep spread, you know, between bases, so it's a lot harder to defend. In this case, it didn't really come into play that much because he didn't have a lot to use to defend with, but you would prefer to take this location as a Zerg because it's so much easier to spread your creep here, which means your roaches and your hydras, your zerglings, whatever you have, is going to move quicker between your two bases to act as a defense. Now you'll notice I'm just absolutely confused because I took out all the bases I knew of, so I know, and that, you know, there's no message saying that he hasn't rebuilt. So I know he's got another hatchery somewhere. I just have no idea where it is because he's expanded in such an odd location. So I'm going to take my army out, and I'm just going to look for it. I'm just, you know, shift-clicking into all these different locations trying to find it. Now my big mistake, though, was to take all my stalkers out of that composition. I only have 2 stalkers here when I know that he has mutas on the field. So that was a mistake. Back home, I have a round of stalkers up just to kind of fend off any muta harass. Still working on my upgrades. Nothing else has really changed as far as tech goes. And right now the game is basically over. I just have to find his other hatchery, is what it's coming down to. And I'm just kind of looking everywhere for it. And this is why I said I shouldn't have split up all the stalkers from this army right here, because I know he had the ability to go mutas. Even though I took down Spire, of course he's going to throw down another one. So he's able just to kind of mop up all these zealots and immortals. But I do finally get my stalkers in. And I actually meant for this main army here to have the stalkers I had warped in over here. I just missed it in my play. So since I saw that his mutas were down here, I'm almost positive that his hatchery is somewhere in, you know, one of these bottom right locations. And I happen to go for this new hatch that he's just putting down up here. But you know what, you're right, Charlie, you should not have gun Rouches when you saw Immortals. That was a mistake, obviously. So basically, you saw there in that game some of the things that the Zerg player did right. He expanded often and early, because as a Zerg player you want that economy lead. You need that economy lead just to stay in the game. The biggest mistake he did was to tech into roaches after he knew that I had immortals. He just lost so much of his army, while I didn't lose much at all in those exchanges. He should have teched into mutas immediately if he had. Me blindly going into immortals and zealots the way I did when he took out my cyber core, he could have just harassed me to no end, and there would have been practically nothing I could do at that point. So it was a little bit lucky by me that he made that mistake. But you did get to see the Baneling bust against that wall, and the mistake he made there, and not streaming in his Banelings straight to my mineral line and deciding to take out those tech structures, and then not taking advantage of the fact that he did. Again, this is gold level play, so it's not perfect. So that was another Starcraft 2 replay. There's going to be plenty more of those. Starcraft is by and far the game that I play the most. It is the game I am most interested in. However, that does not mean that there won't be other games featured on this channel. I've actually been trying to get a Total War Shogun 2 replay up and on this channel. However, I've had a lot of problems with lagging. My CPU is not the best. So, and Shogun is a very CPU intensive game. So I'm going to continue trying to figure out a way to get those replays in. I have a friend that plays the game a lot, and he does really well. I'd love to get those up on the channel. And of course, you know, there'll be other games as well available. I am currently playing I Want to Be the Boshi, and I'm thinking about possibly recording those for the channel. I'm not very good at the game. It is so intensely frustrating. What else? We're going to be having a Super Smash Brothers tournament in March. a friend of mine and I will be hosting it and playing in it. So if you're in the area, please, please, please attend. Get the word out there. We're hoping to set a date for sometime in March. We're going to set the date soon. We'll be using typically mostly the Apex rules, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We hope to have it either streamed or recorded, possibly both, so we can put it up on the channel as well. So if you guys have any questions, comments, appreciate it. Just leave them in the sections below. And thanks everybody. I certainly appreciate you watching, and keep an eye out for more content to come. Thank you. GGTV, signing out.